Cool, we're live. So, a lot of you guys asked me to, sorry, a lot of you guys asked me to do, so I posted something on Instagram about, like, I want to keep doing YouTube, and a lot of cool stuff's going to be coming up on my YouTube channel. A lot of stuff doing with Bobcat, my dealer. I'll talk about the stuff later, but I posted something on Instagram, said, do you guys want, for the next YouTube video, do you guys want me to do worst customer ever had or how to pick and choose your customers and know when to quit? So, and everybody said, do your worst customer. So I said, okay. So figured I'd live stream it instead of recording it prior, just so you guys can ask questions along the way. So basically, this is where it started. So this was the beginning of the season. And so on a Sunday, beginning of the season, Sunday 7:30, I get a phone call from this guy. Doesn't really speak that good of English, and I keep hearing Ross Lawn Care about it. And I said I tried to like process it, but I couldn't really. And I said, "Sir, do you mind texting me?" And he said, "Sure." So he texted me. He says, "Hey, is this Ross Lawn Care?" And I said, "Yes." And then he says to me, I was wondering if you could cut my grass today. And I said, sure. And he said, how much would it be? And then he told me his address. I actually had a friend that lived at that exact same house, so I knew the yard. So I said, $20. That's one big mistake I've learned not to do is just to give out of the estimates. I've learned to go to the property now and actually see what the situation is. And he said, yeah, just do a regular cut. He's like, I would like a bag too. And so I said, oh, then it'll be 25. So we said 25. And I said, okay. And then he texts me back and says, I'll be here. I'll be here to like, I think it was like 10:30 to 11. So you can come then. I'm like, okay. Now I understand someone like setting me up for like a time frame first time because they probably want to meet me and everything. I actually cut this guy's grass 3 times, but let's get back into it. Um, so I said, okay, so I get everything. I got the bagger on the mower. Drive down to his house. I stop park. So I get there, and the front yard looks fine. Front yard actually doesn't need cut at all. It looked dead, but he said still to cut it anyway. And once I got there, I realized his whole front yard was crabgrass. It's completely crabgrass, and everybody that knows landscaping knows you can't stripe crabgrass. And so I get there and he says, hey, one of your clients recommended me to you. I said, oh, cool. I got the client's name so I can give him like a $5 like discount or something. And so I get there, see the crabgrass, and he says, I see, you do all these I do all these neighbors' yards, could you make mine look like theirs? And he says, I really like, to do the stripes on mine. And I tell him firsthand, I haven't looked at the back yet. I tell him firsthand that you have crabgrass and you can't stripe crabgrass. So he says, okay. He's kind of mad about that. And so he says, so you're going to mow it, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to mow it. So I mow the front yard. Everything's good. And then I walk to the back. The backyard is probably about a half a foot tall. And I'm just thinking to myself, oh, this is not going to be good. Because also what they've done with the yard. So, like, here's your yard. And so what's happened was, so like off in this corner right here is like some pine trees, and then you have like a sewer drain right here. That'll come later in the story. And this is a whole fenced yard. And so then here they have a place set, and then here's like their patio kind of thing. And there's like a little place that you can get the mower through to really start cutting the grass. And so imagine you have the place set right here. I mean, you can't do any straight lines in here. I mean, you can't really do anything at all in there. I'd rather brought a push mower than the Bobcat because the Bobcat was just really big with the bagger on it. So I'm automatically thinking to myself, I'm going to be here for a while. So I start cutting the grass. So I start cutting the back, and I get like halfway through, and so I'm mowing under the place set. Swings. I lift them up, get back on the mower. I start to go, and then the biggest bees you'll ever see in your life come at me. And so now in my common knowledge, I know big bees don't sting, only little ones. But your first instinct is to run. So I mean, these bees, 5 minutes would not leave me alone at all. And this is the customer's fault. It's just really annoying. Apparently, there's like a bee nest under the playset. So for 5 minutes, I mean, I'm just like staying away from the mower, trying to like inch up to it, and these bees start coming at me. And literally, I didn't even think that the bee won't sting me, but whatever. So we did that, and so I do the outline of the yard. It's a very, very tight squeeze and everything, just of all the landscaping and stuff that's been done there. So again, I do that line of the yard. I finish the backyard. I filled up like 6, maybe 7 yard waste bags. I mean, it was crazy. So it looked somewhat nice. But again, it's crabgrass. Sorry about that. But so sorry. So I start trimming, and so I start trimming, and as you guys probably know, the trimmer doesn't mulch grass; it just cuts it. So I'm trimming around the perimeter of the backyard and the fence, and I mean, again, this grass is like a half a foot tall, and so I mean, it's not going to look like when you're trimming, because it's just going to look like a big like windrow of hay. It's like around your yard, and I told him that it's not going to look nice. He said, okay, yeah, no, whatever. So I trim around the back, and I mean, there's just a lot of stuff to trim around. That's a pain in the butt to do. So I trim around the back, and so I start blowing off. He comes out and stops me. He's like, "What are you gonna do about this grass?" And I told you, it's not gonna look nice. I mean, I can try to bag it up with my mower. He says, "Okay, we'll do that." He says, "What do the neighbors think about that?" Because I don't want to take them off. And I'm looking at the neighbor's yard, and it literally looks like a hayfield. And I understand it doesn't look good, and I raked it up for him, and I cleaned it up for him. But I told him, it's not going to look nice again. And I told him, your neighbors looking at the yard, they probably won't care. So I cleaned it up for him, blew off the yard, and I start the mower and start to go back home. And he stops me again. He's like, "Oh, what about the leaf cleanup?" And I'm like, "What leaf cleanup?" And he's like, "I left on the voicemail that I left you. I said, would you mind coming and doing a leaf cleanup too?" And I'm like, well, thinking in my head, I couldn't really understand what you're saying. But so he takes me. So I told you there's this aisle of trees right here, and then you have the fence, like a little sewer drain. So he takes me there. There are literally 20 leaves, only like 20 leaves there. He's like, "I want this cleaned up." Now, 20 leaves isn't a lot of leaves, but when there are wet, mucky leaves and they have been like sprayed up against, so like all of his like 4 neighbors have fences, so it like intersects right there. All those leaves have just been caked up to that post. I mean, you can't get them off. Like, I had to really pull them off. I mean, they're caked on. So, 20 leaves, clean them up, whatever. And he pays me $25. And I was like, next time it's going to have to be more. And he says, okay. So I spent like 2.5 hours there. Next time he calls me, and I understand the first time, but he said, "Hey, I'll be here Saturday from like 9:30 to 10. You can come then." And I'm like, I texted him back and said, "Hey, I can do it Sunday, just I don't know what time." He says it has to be at this time. And so that was kind of weird for me. I don't know really why he told me you have to be at this time, but I said, okay, whatever. I get to the yard and I cut it. Again, the back is just stupid long. Oh yeah, also another thing I should mention, he wanted me to do it every other week instead of every week, because he just didn't want to pay for it. I tell customers it's going to be a double cut. I mean, it's going to be double charged, because I'm going to have to double cut your grass since you didn't have me do it last week. So I mean, and I didn't tell him it's going to be double charged right then and there, because it's a new customer. I figured, hey, I'll tell him, here in the next month or two, if he keeps having me do this, I'll tell him. So I cut the grass, cut the back, and I noticed him. He's watching me out of his kitchen window. Now, cool, watching me, whatever. But it's just weird, customers watching you. I don't know if you guys have customers that like watch you. Like, it's cool. I appreciate, you like the work that I'm doing, but it's just, it's just weird for me, because you don't want to mess up in front of the customers, which I never really do. But you're just, you're kind of scared about that happening. So, watching me, he comes out. I said, uh, you know, mow all the grass. I mowed all the grass, trimmed everything. Yours look really good. He comes out there and he hands me 20 and says, bye, and starts walking. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's like I said, today it has to be at least $30. I mean, I've been here for an hour and a half. He's like, well, I don't have $30 on me. And I'm like, well, it's gonna need to be 30. So he got 30 from his wife, I think. He paid me, and I'm already thinking, I don't want to do this guy anymore. I'm taking so much time on this yard. It's just not worth it to me to do it. Um, so I mean, and next time he called me, he said, hey, I'll be here at this time and this time. I'm like, okay, this will be the last time I'm doing this guy. I'm cutting his grass. And so I pull up to the yard, and he says, hey, I got some leaves under the bushes. Could you mind cleaning those up for me? And I said, I do have a tool to do that. I don't have any rakes or my blower vac on me right now. I could go get it if you want to wait. He's like, no, they need to be cleaned up today. He was like, you can hand pick them, and I'm like, I'm not hand picking the leaves out of the bush. He's like, well, I'd really like them done today. I'm like, I can't help you there. So I cut the grass, and it didn't rain that week, so the grass was like a foot tall in the back. I mean, his front never grows, but I mean, it was like a foot tall in the back. So I mean, and he's just, it was like he wanted everything done your way, and I mean, the customer's always right. Don't get me wrong, they always are, but like it needed to be at like this time. He'll pay me whatever he pay me, and for me, that's just not going to work. I just bought the Bobcat. I got bills to pay. And I could be overdoing, other nice yards. And so basically, so I did the back. I did a really good job. I got some stripes on the back. And so oh yeah, and another thing, he'd also come out and inspect the yard with me, which I understand do it, but like I mean, he was like critical, like you missed this blade of grass, can you come weed it? And I'm like, okay, sir. So, we get done with the third inspection of the backyard, and so I go to turn on my mower, and I'm already really done with this guy. I'm like, just let me go home. And so he comes out, he pays me, and then he also goes back in his and like he goes back into his backyard, and like he goes back in his backyard and he starts pointing at his patio. And I turn off the mower and I say, what's wrong? And he's like, could you edge around the patio? Now I could and I did. I edged around the patio, but in order for an edge to look nice, the grass has to be, I'd say, a little bit above the actual place that you're edging around. The grass was like sunken in, and literally like the concrete is here, the grass is here. So I mean, you can't edge that. I mean, it's basically already edged for itself. So I did it, and so I'm super done. I'm like, I'm getting on my mower and leaving. I turn on my mower, he waves me down, and I know this isn't good customer service, but I just leave. I'm like, I'm done with this. It's not worth my time. So I left, and I haven't heard from him since. So that's my worst customer story. I've heard a lot of other worst customer stories. So yeah, I figured I'd live stream so you guys can ask questions. So that's my story. We'll have another video probably coming up next week. I don't really know what it's going to be about. I know I want to keep posting. I'm getting a better camera. I've been just doing it off my phone. I'm going to be getting an actual vlog camera here with mic and everything. So I'm going to be doing that. And then a lot of cool stuff coming up with Bobcat. Been talking to Chant a lot from Chant's Daily Hustle. So yeah, guys, appreciate you guys coming on and watch the video. Like, comment, subscribe. Subscribe to see what we're up to next. Always something cool and new. So yeah, guys, thank you guys so much for joining.